Everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at the patch notes for 11.13. So as always, if you enjoy the content, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out a ton on the channel. Check out the rest of the offerings as well. I'm going to have fresh tier lists for this patch coming out over the next couple of days. We stream every night starting around 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Usually go till about 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Very friendly, chill community. We'd love to have you. And we have tons and tons of other content on the channel as well, so be sure to check all that out. Okay, let's go ahead and get in here. So, Aphelios. They're giving him a little bit of a buff. Bonus damage going up marginally, like 6 per level. Lethality going up a little bit. I'm not really sure. This guy's really complicated in terms of how his balancing works, but I do know he's in a terrible place right now. He's got like a 46% win rate. He's immobile. He's just a sitting duck for a lot of these hard engage, hard dive comps. If he doesn't have, his purple gun with his ultimate ready or whatever, he just really doesn't have a ton of appeal. I guess he can maybe kite, with his red gun or something, but he's just in a really bad place right now. So I'm all for giving him a little bit of buffs. He is a cool champion. He's interesting. He's just very difficult to balance just because he is so versatile, and historically he has dealt a ton of damage. So, anyways, I don't think this is going to be enough to bring him back in. I think he needs some other tweaks to his numbers. But good. I like to see him, bring him up just a little bit. Kayn, now revealed when cast within terrain. Okay, so now they can see when you're actually casting your W. This is something that is really annoying to try to deal with when he tries to snipe you out, especially with a W. So, okay, minor nerf to Kayn, but something that overall is good for the game, gives better visual clarity. Now, Lisa, and they're saying he's dominating top and mid in all levels of play. I disagree. I do not see him doing well in a lot of my games. He does all right, but, I mean, even if you look at pro play right here, right, if we're looking at, top Lee Sin, and this is from patch 11.12, he's got a 55% win rate and a 55% presence, but I would not call that dominating. Right, like their criteria for when something is supposed to be nerfed in pro that they've laid out over time is an 80% or more presence. So Gwen should be the one getting the hit, if anybody, in the top lane right now. And then if we look at mid lane, Akali should be the one getting the nerf, right? 80% presence, 57% win rate versus I don't even see. Oh, there he is. Okay. So he's 55%, and I mean, I guess you could say, well, he's 55% in 2 different roles, but that's just not that far over the line, in my opinion. I don't know. I think Lee's a really cool champion. I don't play him personally, so I don't, and nobody that I duo with consistently plays him personally. I know Clean Lee does play him some. But I don't know. He's cool. I like him in the meta. I don't like the nerf. 40 is a lot of damage on him, especially for a champion that otherwise, historically doesn't scale that well. Later on into the games, he's melee, and just has a very conditional gap closer. So I don't like it. And as far as solo queue goes, he's just bad in solo queue, right? If we look at top lane Lee here, he's like less than 50%, so he's not like unplayable, but certainly not dominating, right? So I really don't like that nerf, but it is what it is. I wouldn't play him mid or top in solo queue, period. I think he's okay in the jungle if you're really good with him in the jungle, but solo lane I think is a huge liability. Okay, Olaf getting a little extra health, inconsequential amount of mana, inconsequential amount of mana growth, so I just don't think this matters. The health maybe. I think they're just trying to put him on the list here so people maybe try him out again. Some of the item changes could be good for him, although the changes to mobility are probably not amazing. I think he'll probably still stay out of the meta, but it's possible that he comes back in. Not really certain about him, but they are. I guess they aren't buff. They're buffing. Well, they're changing Stride Breaker, which we'll get to in a second. I don't think he uses that. You like the Gore Drinker, but they buffed that a couple of patches ago. But anyways, I don't think it's gonna matter. Riven, another high skill cap champ that I don't like to see them nerf. Again, I don't play Riven, but I think it's cool when there are the high skill cap champs are good. Like, I'd much rather Riven be good in the meta than something like Darius or, Garen be good in the meta, right? So they're nerfing her Valor. The shield strength is going down by 10 at later ranks, or actually at all ranks. So, I don't know. I don't think this is going to matter that much, but that is like, what, 5% or so nerf at max level to the shield rank. There have been some pretty good items that she can get. You know, a lot of the stuff that's been buffed, like Stride Breaker, Sterix, Gore Drinker. You know, she's got a lot of options for things that are good, but I mean, she's at skilled and elite play, she's doing well. So I don't know. I mean, she has 53%. Whatever. Okay, nerf to her. Rumble. They're nerfing him again. Again, I don't think he's that dominant. They said in mid, he's pretty much non-existent in pro mid right now. Like, literally no Rumble games in the mid lane on this patch. Or on the most recent patch. And then in the jungle, he has played a lot in the jungle. But again, that win rate, it's like 47%. Now, he does have a 79% presence. That's getting closer to their threshold. They like to ban, at least that's what they tell us, based on presence in pro. Right, if they're thinking about banning something for pro, they look at presence more so than win rate, because their thought process there is if something is banned a lot, then it's really good, even if it doesn't have a high win rate. People are only letting it through if they have very specific counters, or they just think no one on the enemy team can play it, that type of thing. So it's like low sample size, but high ban rate. So that's why they look at presence. But I don't know. He's interesting in the jungle. Again, I hate to see him get nerfed, but I just like for there to be some variety, you know. I don't like for it to be, you know, a bruiser in the jungle, you know, all the time, tank in the jungle. And Rumble was kind of a unique champ, but I think he still will be pretty good. A little bit of nerf on the move speed. That shield might matter at early levels. I don't think you max that. Definitely not first, but even second, I think in most builds you're not going to be getting that, so he might take a bit more damage in the jungle. Okay, and then Tom Kench, I don't think he's going to come in doing that well. I think the role where he would be maybe most likely to do well would be jungle, but without his Devour, I don't even know if he can clear. Now, I mean, it's like an R, but like maybe a roaming support. So let's look at what they're doing to him. And there are some things that aren't clear to me. I could have looked on the PvE for it, but I just didn't get around to that this patch. But his base stats are going quite a bit lower, going down to 570 here. Mana growth is a little higher. Armor's lower. So he's definitely going to get hit a lot harder and be a lot squishier in the early game, especially if he's bot lane. Bonus damage is much lower on the maximum health. Although it does heal you now, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, going down to 2.5% at max health. He can now cast Devour during Tongue Lash to eat enemies. Okay, and I don't know the cooldown on this Devour either. It doesn't have the cooldowns here. It has it here on the W, but it does not have it on the R for some reason. So maybe that means it's unchanged, which would be like, 130 seconds or something on the ult, 120 seconds on the R. So Tongue Lash now deals, you probably max this first, starting at 6% of his missing health as a heal. So if he's at half health, if he's starting off at like 700, it would heal for like 35. If he's got 350 health left, which is okay, but the fact that it's missing health and not max health is deceptively worse than people think, probably. Tongue Lash now applies passive stacks to enemy champions it hits. Okay, I thought it had always done that. I guess not. It doesn't say, but I think when you Q, it stuns and takes away all the stacks still. That was one of his big strengths, is like top lane. I don't think he was ever like super amazing as a top laner, but he was okay if the enemy was not going to send any pressure your way and you could just 1v1 an enemy bruiser. One of the big strengths was you could almost just perma stun lock them because the Q didn't remove stacks. But I think it still removes stacks when you stun them. So Okay, so applies a stack. The slow is 40%. That is a massive nerf. It used to be a 70% slow for 3 seconds, which was very significant because he doesn't have any hard CC other than his Devour. He doesn't have any hard CC, so he really needed a powerful slow. Now it's 40% for 2 seconds. So that's huge. He's not going to be able to catch up to them and, you know, start applying more stacks probably now. So that's a massive, massive nerf to him. And then the mana cost is going down. Like, that's cool, you know, because his mana is not great, but it just seems pretty bad. And then the range and missile speed scale with his size. First of all, why? And second of all, how much? How does his size go up? Does he just have to get, like, the tenacity elixir or whatever it's called? I don't know. Or, like, a Lulu ult or something? I don't really know how he's supposed to get his... There might be a couple of items I'm not thinking of that increase, like, size, but this seems like a really goofy mechanic if he doesn't have anything internally that causes his size to grow, like Cho'Gath. And I'm not seeing anything that does that, unless I'm just blind. But I don't see anything sort of built into his kit that's going to do that. So that seems really weird to me. And they say it's scale... So is it the same range? It was like 950 range or something, so it had pretty good range on it. I was trying to look on the wiki, and it's not updated yet. Anyways, it seems weaker to me in general. Or at the very least, neutral. Abyssal Dive. Tom Kench channels for 1.35 seconds, then dives for 0.15. So basically 1.5 seconds total before they get there. And he deals a decent amount of damage over time, plus 100% AP ratio. Okay, so it does scale with AP. Damage and knocking up enemies for 1 second. Now, I don't know the radius on this. I assume it's about the radius of his character, maybe like an Alistar radius. If it's a Rakan radius, that's going to be pretty bad. If it's Alistar, it's going to be a little bit better. Hitting enemy champions refunds 30% of the cooldown and mana cost. Okay, so early on you'd get like 7 seconds back if you hit them. If you have like 2 points in this, ish. That you're still only going to cast it once per fight probably, so I don't know that it matters too much. Stuff like that really only matters if you can do it twice in a fight, which is usually like 10 seconds or less if it's an extended fight. Okay. And the mana cost. Oh my god, it costs so much mana though. Okay. Again, probably not that relevant, but he can take a devoured ally along for the ride. Now this is important because this means you have to use your R in order to bring a friend with your W. Massive, massive nerf. Because before, whenever you did your devour, I mean, it was your ult and you took a friend with you. But then you also had your W still free to eat people offensively or defensively. Now you have to use, basically, from what I understand, you have to use your old W in order to get the same benefit, to bring someone with you. So now it's like you basically have to use 2 abilities to bring a friend with you on this W, which is really bad. It's really, really bad. I mean, like, you know, the best case scenario is probably going to be you bring along a tank with you or something like that. You bring Sejuani or Zac or something with you, and you ult, and you go onto the back line with them, and then they ult, and it's like, surprise, you know, and you get, like, you get the jump on them, which is cool, but you used to be able to do that before if you wanted to and still have your W available. So basically, like, his best case scenario as far as, like, engaging goes, which he didn't do it that often, to be honest. You usually use him just to, you know, protect your back line or to, you know, do split pushing things, right? To go protect split pushes on the side and things like that. But yeah, they're fully taking away that option now, like where you have to use basically 2 abilities just to get what one ability used to do. So that is a nuclear nerf, in my opinion. That's really, really bad. I wish they would just let you hop in again. I mean, maybe they think that's too strong for something on that low of a cooldown, but he needs it, man. The rest of his kit is so crappy. Like, he needs to have that. Like, that's one thing you could do with him if he didn't have that, was just like gank your own lane right? If you could bring the jungler in with you or bring in someone who's roaming with you, it could be basically like a Thresh Lantern, right? That's got you can be a little bit more hidden, but it takes a little bit longer to channel, and you could say, all right, that's kind of like a janky Thresh Lantern, right, is how I would see it. But you can't do that now unless you have your ult, so that's pretty rough. And then the shield duration, so that ability to me seems bad. Now it says they actually get to see it coming too for an extra 3/4 of a second, which is light years. They see this whole thing bubbling up underneath them or wherever it is. I mean, I guess you could do it in a bush. It doesn't say the range. From what people had said on stream, the range is about a screen length or so, like so maybe 1200 or less at rank 1. You remember when Tom's ult used to be like basically semi-global, like from mid lane to like the side lanes? It's not that. So anyways, you only go by yourself now unless other people follow, and you don't get a shield, you don't get any extra protection. You just do a little bit of damage if you hit them, but they better be CC'd or disconnected or something if you're going to hit them with this, because they are going to see it coming most likely. Okay, shield duration up a little bit, whatever. Slightly increased to 10% maximum health per 1/4 of a second. Okay. 4 seconds of not taking damage. So you have to like not take damage for a really long time now for this to kick in. 4 seconds instead of 2.5. So this is neutral and possibly a nerf. And then the R Devour. Tahm Kench swallows target champion for 3 seconds. Okay, so 3 seconds of CC. If the target champion is an enemy, so I think that's longer. I think that's a longer piece of CC than there used to be. If the target is an enemy champion, they must have 3 stacks of the passive. So you still have to have 3 stacks on them. And they take a lot of extra damage. So up to 400 damage plus 15% of, I'm assuming, Tom's max health damage as magic damage. Okay, so I mean, that does kind of, I mean, at level 6, that's pretty wimpy at like 100 damage. But at level 11, you're never going to get to 16 unless you're like a jungler or something. But at level 11, 250 plus, 15% of your max health is probably like 225 at that point if you have 2,000 max health. So it's about 500-ish damage. Tahm is also grounded and slowed by 40% movement. Okay, so cannot flash or take a lantern or, do anything like that. And his movement speed is slowed by 40%, so he's super slow. If the target is an ally, they're given a big shield. So that's the nice new bonus, is if you eat an ally, they get a huge shield for, 100% of your AP plus 300, 450 that lasts for 2.5 seconds after your Devour ends. Okay, so you can eat somebody out of a sticky situation, spit them back out, and they have a big shield for 2.5 seconds. Okay. Tahm does not get the shield or anything, though. Tahm Kench is also grounded by 40%, but it goes down over time. He can still cast W, though. Okay, so you cannot eat an enemy an abyssal away, but you can eat an ally an abyssal somewhere. So I guess that's cool. I mean, in a lot of situations where you're going to eat an ally, it's not going to be good. I mean, the thing here is you're using the 2 abilities like I mentioned before. You do roll up. You do have a big shield you can put on somebody when you spit them out or whatever. So it is better than the previous one. It's just you're not going to have your W for the fight to like eat anybody offensively or to, save an ally or whatever. So my verdict is bad. I think he's going to come in at like 45% or less. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I hope I'm wrong. He's a cool champion. But they're taking away his biggest tools. And I agree, he was difficult to balance. Because he was basically a Quicksilver Sash on a stick. Unless this cooldown is really low. Like, if Devour is like a 30-second cooldown or something, then I can maybe get behind this. But if it's still going to be, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 120 seconds, I just don't think this is strong enough. So what I would change is I would allow the Abyssal Dive, allow an ally to click on it again without using the Devour. Now, make it an option. If you devour them and then do it, then you get the shield. So if you want to show up with a shield, then that's fine. Or, you know, you still have them in your mouth, and then, like, they throw all of the CC on you right when you appear, and then you could spit them out with the shield after all of the cooldowns are down. Like, I could see there could be some tactical use for that, but I would like for it to be an option that you just do a normal Abyssal Dive without the Devour. So you're not using two abilities. Because what made Tom really strong before was Global Presence with his R, right? Where you could gank your own lane with it, you could gank side lanes with it. It had large range, had a fairly low cooldown for something that was effectively a teleport for 2, and it had a lot of unique applications, especially in Pro, particularly at defending against split pushes. It was very, very good at that. And his W also allowed you to protect, you know, people on the back line. Everyone's familiar with that. You would just eat an ally, and then basically CC just doesn't work. So it was extremely unique and very, very effective as a support. And he was just kind of tanky, you know, with some slows and things of that nature. So that's what made him unique. That's what made him a pick. But why would I pick him now? You know, like that's just what I'm thinking. Why am I not going to pick one of these other... Because what he gives up is he doesn't have any really reliable engage. Like, yeah, you can use the W to kind of engage, but it's nowhere close to, like, Alistar, Nautilus, Leona, Rakan. So he doesn't have engage, and now he doesn't have reliable peel on a low cooldown, right? He's got the Devour, but it's like 120 seconds if you have to devour somebody. So that's not really that reliable. So if I'm looking for somebody to peel, you know, why am I just not going to go with the... you know, the Nautilus, or even something like a Braum? If you just want like a hard peeler teamfight tank, why am I just not going Braum now? Or Rel, or, you know, it just feels like there are so many other champs that just do what he's trying to do better. So I don't know. Hopefully they buff him up a little bit. If they do want to, I guess they could just increase his damage on it. Like if they want to make him like a really aggressive fighter, you know, type of champion, they could increase like his thick skin and things like that. They did give him extra AP ratios, which is interesting, but I think he's going to be too squishy if he goes AP. So I really am not sure, but I feel pretty confident that he's not going to be good on release, but we'll see. Okay. Viego, healing for minions is going down. I'm not sure what that healing was in general, but that is one of the most toxic things, is just laners being able to heal a significant amount off of minions. It just makes trades so difficult for other people. So I like that they're nerfing that aspect of him and not necessarily nerfing his ult or some of the other things that make him really cool and unique. So that's good. And people complain. I've heard people saying, "Oh, this guy's like dominating pro." It's like he's really not. I mean, like it's 38% presence, 60% win rate. So yeah, he's all right. And you know there are some games where he's strong for sure. But oh, that's jungle. Let me see mid. I think I looked this up before. Yeah, he's got a 33% win rate mid. So I've heard some people talking, you know, some of the announcers like, "Oh, he's OP and all this." It's like, is he though? Is he? That's the theme in these patch notes, is stuff that people say is OP when you actually look at the numbers on it isn't really that OP. And in solo queue, he's not that like insane. He's okay, right? Yeah, he's like 51%, but it's not like overwhelmingly strong. So I'm glad they're not like over nerfing him. But they are buffing his E a little bit, so he gets a bit more movement speed, faster missile speed, and bigger hitbox. Now that could, I think that's right. Is that the chains? Or no, I'm thinking of Silas. The chains where he grabs people. This is the stun, right? With the E, like where he dashes and then stun, like throws out the little bar and stuns people. I haven't played Viego, so I don't know 100%, but that's fine. I think he's an interesting champion. I like kind of those doppelganger type of champs, so that's good. Okay, double daggers with the Q. Now, I believe you don't usually put a lot of points in this, so I mean, it's nice that they're buffing it, but Xayah is still probably going to max W or E, and she's still not in a great place. Just lower the cooldown on her ult, guys. Just bring it back down to like 140. I think it's 160 right now. Just bring the ult back. If you need to, nerf the damage on the feathers, okay, but she has to have that. Like, that's all of her defense. That's so much of her kit is her ult, and they just nerfed the hell out of it a long time ago. So just bring it back. Maybe she shoots out less feathers. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but something where she can use that ult more often is what needs to happen to bring her back into the meta. So this is nice, but the fact that, again, she's not leveling this a lot. Maybe you could go 3 in the laning phase, but it's questionable. It's kind of like for poke or something, right? But you want your W bigger, I believe, because that gives you much more sustained, like, in combat damage, and your E gives you, like, that burst damage when you rip all your feathers back. So I don't think that's enough. Okay, Anathema's Chains. So 250 gold, 650 health, 20 ability haste. I think I did the math on this on stream the other day. So that's about 250 gold shy of efficient. So you're paying 250 for these bonus effects. Which, like, this is interesting on a champ that scales really heavily with health, maybe, like Mundo or I'm trying to think of who, like maybe Sejuani. I don't think a lot of supports are going to get this. I could be wrong about that, but it does not have armor on it. It does not have any sort of mana on it. Zach maybe might like this. Does not have armor, does not have mana. It does have cooldown reduction, doesn't have, magic resist. But it does have a lot of health. Choose a nemesis, building a vendetta over 60 seconds. So you want to stick it on one person. And then you take 1% reduced damage per stack. Stacks to, okay, so every 2 seconds you get a 1% reduction. So it protects you from taking a lot of damage from a single target. So if they have someone who's really fed, this is good. But the problem is if you take this as a support, they're not going to be targeting you most of the time, right? So you're going really far out of your way. I mean, if you're like a Nautilus or a Leona and you're just really going into that back line, and maybe they only have one major damage source, like they just have a bunch of role player champs and Vayne or something like that. Now, that will not stop true damage, I'm pretty sure. Nothing does. Nothing reduces true damage. Like, maybe there are some really niche situations where they only have 1 or 2 big damage threats, and you're some kind of disruptor who just needs to survive and stay on the back line and, CC people. But by and large, it doesn't do anything to help your allies out. I guess it does lower the tenacity if you have a bunch of CC on your team. Tenacity of one person. So yeah, I just don't know a lot of situations where because you got to remember, like, yes, okay, it's fine, but you're trading other things for this. Like, that's what a lot of people, I think, underestimate, at least when I'm talking with people about items in chat during the stream, is everything's a trade-off, right? If you're choosing to get this item, you're choosing not to get something like Locket, right? Which is, in a lot of cases, going to be a lot stronger. Or you're choosing, not to get Shirelias, or not to get Moonstone, or, any of these other mythics that are probably going to be better. So Locket's the big one, I think, that would compete with this, obviously, for tanks. So, actually, this is it's not a mythic, is it, or is it? No, it's 2,500 gold, but it's not a mythic. Okay, so it's not a mythic, so I guess that's good. But still, like, at that price point, it's like, you could be buying your mythic, you could be buying Zeke's, you could be buying Frozen Heart, you could be buying, what was it, the thing that gives you the Abyssal Mask, even, I think is a little bit underrepresented here. Knight's Vow is pretty bad, but it's cheaper. It at least gives your allies some protection. So I just feel like there are just a lot more items that would be useful in this slot. Even like the warding item might be more useful. So I'm not really impressed. Because it just strictly for you. Now for a support. Now for other lanes, maybe. Like I said, like a champion that doesn't care about mana, that just wants to stack a lot of health. Maybe this could be a thing. I mean, I'm trying to think, like, I was thinking like on Soraka or something, maybe. but it doesn't reduce damage from all champions. It's just one. If it reduced damage from all champions on the enemy team, even by like 10% or 15%, you know, maybe it's better, but it's just one person. I was thinking like maybe as a later item on like a Soraka, if you're trying to make sure they don't kill you and they have like a Zed that's really fed. Like you'll see the item sometimes, but I think it's going to be really niche and there's just going to be better options. But, you know, protecting an enchanter from an assassin might be an option. Maybe. Like a Soraka or a Sona or something as a third item if they have really fed Zed. It doesn't have any armor, but maybe. Okay. Hullbreaker. 50 attack damage, 300 health, 150% regen. This stat's really bad outside of laning, so I don't like to see that on a lot of champs, because this is intended for solo lane champs, I think. While no allied champions are nearby, gain some extra armor and magic resist, and deal 20% increased damage to towers. And then large minions also gain a lot of armor and magic resist and deal 200% increased damage to towers. So this is kind of like supposed to be the new Banner of Command / Zeke's or whatever, but you have to actually be there alone to make this work. So getting 35, so getting 70 stats is, you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,400, 1,500 gold. Maybe by the time you get this item in the mid game. And then, how much is it? It's not say. Isn't this like a 2,800 gold item? I'm not 100%, but that okay. So that's like 1,500 on the passive if you're alone, not including the tower stuff. 300 health is like 800 gold. So that's 2,300 gold, and then 50 attack damage is it's like 1,750, I think, gold. Is that right? It's 35 times 50. Yeah, it's like 17. Okay, so 1,750 plus 8. So you're getting like 2,600 gold without the regen, which that regen's worth about 300 or so, even though, once again, it falls off late game. So it's basically 100% efficient here, and then the extra armor and magic resist when you're not near allies. Actually, that's pretty damn good. Now that I'm doing the math on it. I think the concept seemed a little wimpy to me, and like the stats themselves seemed a little wimpy, but the fact that you get, like, this is just so much stats, like 30, I'm just counting like 35 stats on each one of these, 35-ish stats. That's like level 11 or 12 or something, presumably. Oh, it's levels 9 to 18? Okay, so you might only get like, what, 25 or 30 at level 11? The scaling's a little weird. So the middle where you might get the 35 is like level 14 then. But even without much of this, even at 2020, it's still pretty good, and that's not including the damage to towers. So this might actually be pretty decent. I'm trying to. It doesn't have that much offense though. So like Garen or Darius. So it doesn't have attack speed, doesn't have CDR, doesn't have armor or magic resist. So it needs to be a champ that likes AD, that scales AD, so not a mage. And then the health is good too. So Garen, maybe Darius. Trying to think of like pure tanks, like an Ornn or a Shin or something. Probably don't like this. Maybe Shin's okay with it because he can actually get some decent attack speed off of his Q. I mean, would you want it? I don't think you'd want it on something like Tryndamere. Maybe Udyr. Well, yeah, Udyr'd probably like it. Okay, so you might see this on some dedicated splitters. I don't know if like a Camille or a Fiora is gonna like this. It's just like, where do you get this in your build? I guess it'd be like third item. But okay, someone's gonna make some use of this, like an Udyr, a Shin, you know, something like that. Maybe at some point. So you're gonna be much worse at team fighting, but that tower taking capabilities are pretty strong. The 60 to 135 on large minions. Now, I don't know if that applies to supers or not. I think those are a separate class of minions. But that actually could be pretty strong. Okay. So this item, extremely situational, probably not going to get it. This item might actually be quite good. I mean, even without the tower taking stuff, just the extra armor and magic resist, like, could be pretty good. So, on like a bruiser type of champ. Okay, mobility item, Stride Breaker. Now, this is one where I think this is actually going to be a buff on a lot of champions. And I've heard, like, Meteos was thinking this was going to be a buff as well. But the first thing I thought was just like, wow, this actually looks like a buff instead of a nerf. Right, so you're getting 200 more health, which is like 500 and some change extra value. You're losing 5 AD, which is 185 value, so you're losing like 200 gold-ish worth of value. So you're gaining plus 300 so far. Halting Slash no longer dashes. It can be cast while you're moving. So while you're dashing or anything else, you can cast this. The slash damage is 100%, and I believe that's total AD, not bonus AD. That's real big. That's 33% more damage on the slash, so that's huge. And then this is one that I think a lot of people are underestimating. It's very strong. The slow is now 90%, and now it decays down to 40, but it's 3 seconds. They are not getting away from that, even if they flash or dash after that. That's basically a stun for the first like 1 second while it decays. That is an extreme amount of slow. The cooldown's 15 seconds, and remember, I think it's still affected by cooldown reduction, and it still has cooldown reduction on it, or whatever ability haste on it, right? So now, you know, you might actually be able to cast this twice in some fights. So that's a big deal. Like I mentioned before, you know, if you can get it under 10 seconds, there's a decent chance that you can cast something twice in a fight. And going from 15, if you just get to, you know, 40 ability haste or something like that, you're probably getting pretty close to that. So you just need like one other item that also has ability haste on it. There's a bunch of Black Cleaver or something like that that can get you there. So that's actually a pretty big buff, I think. Because, I mean, the difference between being able to do this once in a fight and being able to do this twice in a fight is obviously astronomical, right? Like, fractions don't matter. Either you do it once or you do it twice in a fight. If you do it, you know, 1.8 times, it doesn't matter. The second time doesn't come up, right? So being able to get this off twice in a fight would actually really be game-breaking. And I think that, or maybe game-breaking is a strong word, but extremely powerful. And that cooldown there is a very big deal because it's affected by cooldown reduction still. So your movement speed's a little bit lower, okay. Mythic, whatever, Dream Shatter. So basically you're giving up the dash, but you're getting a lot more damage, a lot more survivability, lower cooldowns. That might actually be double damage effectively, and just like an absurd slow. Remember, this is AoE too on that slow, right? So if you're like, you know, dashing into a team fight or something and you activate this, if you're Gnar and you jump into a team fight and slam everyone into the wall and then, you know, Stride Breaker them once the stun's about to go off, for example, and then everyone's slowed by 1,000,000. I think it's going to be really, really good. I wish they would have nerfed this item. It's just way too strong. This is not a nerf. This is a, at best, neutral, and in, you know, worst case scenario, I guess, for everyone who doesn't use this is that it's actually a buff. Okay. Lich Bane, speed down, ability power up. I think most champs are probably cool with that. Maybe TF is going to miss that movement speed a little bit, but something like Diana would probably rather trade the ability power for speed. I'm not sure, but either way, probably close to neutral. Cosmic Drive, same drill. Actually, this is losing more. I think this is losing 10 flat, which is more than 2% in a lot of cases, so this is such a niche item. Most people don't get this item anyways, but this would hurt the Bard build who uses this, I believe, because he cares more about the movement speed than the ability power. Okay, Cleaver getting a little bit more health, but losing 12 bonus movement speed, so that's a nerf, I think, which is good. This item's just too strong. Dead Man's Plate, they used the wrong icon here, but this is a massive nerf, so you do build it up over 4 seconds. That is nice that you can reactivate this in fights to chase people down faster. The maximum movement speed's only 40 though. 1 magic damage per stack. 1 physical damage per stack. And then you get plus 100% of your base AD up to 40. Okay, so it's capped at 40? Wait, what? 1 physical damage per stack, and the grammar on here is bad, plus 100% bonus AD. Because everyone's bonus AD is going to be more than 40. So, I think what it means is you get 1 physical damage per stack when it's built up to 100 or whatever, and that gives you up to 40, and then it applies the 100% base AD. Surely that's what this means. Because it wouldn't make any sense to say up to 40 because everyone's base AD is more than 40. So that would be somewhere in the neighborhood of like 100-ish damage, physical damage for a lot of champs, and the really high base AD people, maybe it goes to like 120 or 130. So a little bit more damage probably on the on-hit, especially for physical damage dealers, so not Nunu, not Bard, but, you know, if Darius or something wants to get this, that might be a little bit more damage on him. Or like Garen or something like that. Movement speed being lower is rough. I think overall it's a nerf, but like AD champs, maybe it's still good. Trinity, 5 extra AD, losing 20 extra movement speed. I think that's probably a good trade. Or 5 movement speed down to 20. Okay, Death Stance, you're healing a little bit more, but you don't gain 30% bonus movement speed for 2 seconds. So, big nerf to a lot of champs that want, like Darius, who wants to get resets off of this. Several champions. But it was kind of niche. Not a lot of people got it. Honestly, forgot it even had that movement speed on it. But it does give you a little bit more of a health refund. So that's good, but 5% extra health refund is not worth 30% bonus movement speed. Shirelias. Now, this is the big meta-defining one that's really going to shift the way that support works. Maybe. We'll see. But the 60% decaying down to 30% over 2 seconds now is just a flat 30%. Now, I believe... Doesn't the overall movement speed last for 4 seconds? Yes. Okay. So basically you got more than 30% movement speed for 2 seconds, and then it's going to decay down after that. So you still get 4 seconds of 30% movement speed. So obviously those first 2 seconds are a big deal because it allows you to just really get in there like very fast. But you still get 4 seconds. You still get 30%, which, let's be honest, that's enough to run people down most of the time. With 4 seconds of a 30% bonus movement speed, you're still probably going to get a hold of people. A lot of times you're just like, it's overkill on the speed. And then it's not affecting the passive. The passive is what really made this item strong, in my opinion, because it had the 60% movement speed before, but it was this passive change that made it better, which is whenever you affected somebody with a heal or a shield, you both get 25% bonus movement speed for 1.5 seconds. Now, this also includes Shirelias, I believe. When you activate Shirelias, I think it also activates this. 25% for 1.5 seconds. Not 100% about that. But either way, a lot of champions that use this can activate it multiple ways. So it's still keeping the passive, which I think is, you know, low-key one of the strongest parts of this, that it still works and it's still good even while the main active is on cooldown. So it's still keeping that. Still has very good stats for a lot of supports, right? It's about 100% efficient, and, you know, it's just got a good stat line there. And it still has 2 different modes of movement speed, so I think it'll still be good. I think it'll still be the go-to item on a lot of champs. Maybe like Moonstone competes with it now on something like a Yumi or Sona, or like there might be some other champs where that could be good, but I still think Shirelias is going to be a very strong item. But we'll see. Obviously not as strong as it was, but it'll still probably be good. Okay, Prowler's Claw. Now they're nerfing the hell out of this, and I don't even understand like yeah, there are some champs that use this item, but I mean, this is a massive nerf. 60 seconds to 90 seconds. I mean, 60 is a bit fast. 60 is a bit fast, but still, I don't know. The lethality down by 3. You can only target enemy champions rather than units. Is that really necessary? I think that's a cool like decision point, right? Do you use it just to jump to a minion and lose the damage, or do you try to wait until you can get in a range? So I think you could actually make some pretty good decisions, and you know, I thought that was a cool interaction. So I don't like to see them getting rid of that. So I don't even know honestly who was getting this. I know that I saw like, was it Varus getting this or something at one point? It was like goofy as hell. I don't know. I mean, obviously stuff like Zed might like this, or Talon, or Lee Sin, you know, because you could Prowler's Claw, get to the other side, Rengar, but there are other assassin items that people can use as well. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to matter too terribly much, but on the champions where this was good, this is going to be a pretty big nerf. Okay, Mana Mythics. I really like this. I think that there just have not been a lot of mages. It's just a lot of melee stuff recently, and so this is low-key like really good for AP supports too. So if you like Zyra or Brand, now you can actually get to your Leandries a lot faster, right? 200 gold faster, and that's a big deal. It still is going to feel bad like getting to those items if you don't get a lot of kills early versus you know, the enchanters who can get that stuff a lot faster, but overall, I like the move. I think it's good. And then Moonstone Renewer, so 7% per stack, stacking up to 35%. I mean, that's really big on Soraka and Sona. I mean, I was saying it before, it was really big. Maybe Yuumi still like Shirelia's, but maybe this changes enough. I'm trying to think of how is... How is this worded? Is it affecting allied champions with attacks or abilities? Yeah. So on like Yuumi, if you just jump around to different people, or you jump off and jump back on and things like that, that keeps you in combat. Obviously, you can use your heal and stuff like that, but even just jumping around to allies keeps this Moonstone ticking indefinitely, as long as you're like in combat. Obviously, Sona keeps it up all the time. You know, Soraka can keep it up. So there are several champs where this could be really good, like Lulu. Although what's making those champs strong right now is the battle song or whatever. But okay, I don't think this is a very good design item. They're trying to buff it up a little bit, but just having that much passive power, that much passive healing can be kind of rough. And this, I mean, it obviously really wants you to get something like a redemption would be key. Second items, and you get even more plus healing and shielding. And then all of this, like, once this is stacked up with a redemption, would give 35% extra healing on the redemption proc itself as well. So this really wants you to get something like redemption to go with it. And I think that, like, Yuumi's in the best position to do that. But I don't know. Staff of Flowing Water is so good too, and Ardent Censer. I guess it makes a lot of good choices. So I don't know. We'll see. It's definitely good for enchanters. I don't know if it's going to be, you know, strong enough to replace Shirelia's, but okay. Divine Sunder. Thank God they're nerfing this a little bit. Unfortunately, they're really not nerfing it that much. So it's going to be nerfed on like Ezreal, pretty much. But it's only 3% of the target's max health getting nerfed off of it, which does matter. I mean, if you're hitting like other ADC squishy champions, it's going to be like 30 to 45 less damage, and your Q is, especially with Mirror Mana, is probably already hitting for like 500 or 600, you know, off of 2 items. So you're losing 5% ish, 5 to 10% damage on your Qs, probably less than that. So it matters, but it still has everything else on it, right? It's still got AD, it's still got health, it still has cooldown reduction or ability haste, whatever. It still has so many things on it. Still got the Sheen proc. So I think it's still going to be really good. And obviously on melee champs, it's not a nerf at all. So, not just Ezreal, but definitely Ezreal. So I think it's still going to be really good. I think it's still going to be super strong. Although it is a little bit of a nerf on Ezreal. I think he'll still get it. Okay. Nimbus Cloak. Movement speed going down to 25%. I don't see a ton of champs taking this. There are some, but it is strong when you flash, you know, especially to be able to run away after the flash is very nice. But I guess there are some champs for sure. But sure, I mean, it's a bit strong where it's used, so that's fine. And then Ghost Poro. Now, this is a really underrated rune. I mean, people forget this thing gives you 30 AP, and you can have it stacked by 15 to 20 minutes. So it's basically like a Gathering Storm, but even better, especially for supports who have, you know, the Ward Stone or whatever, the support warding item. You can easily get this stacked up by 15 minutes. So you're basically getting extra vision early, and quite a bit of extra vision. It was giving you 1 minute extra extension on your wards, and now it's giving you 90 seconds, which is a long time. So that helps protect you, especially when you just have those first couple of wards, and you need to keep an eye on the first dragon, or, you know, a certain gank path. You want to watch a certain camp for a little bit longer. There are a lot of different applications for this, but that's very nice in the early game. But even in the late game, you know, with 90 extra seconds, that's almost like, you know, 50% more time on your wards. So that's a big deal. It's almost like you get to have double wards out if they don't see them, depending on how you're warding. And then revealing the enemy for 6 seconds is nice, you know, gives you a little bit more time to see sort of what's going on. But the big one's 90 extra seconds. So a lot of people are sleeping on this rune as support. I don't think you'd get it in any other role because you just won't stack it fast enough. But I think it's a lot better for support than Zombie Ward or Eyeball Collection in a lot of cases, as long as they're not sweeping your wards like all the time. So definitely like under Diamond, I think it's a really good option. If they constantly clear your wards, it's not going to be that good. But because you got to remember, it's not just when it turns into a Poro you get a stack. If it sees an enemy, I think you get 2 stacks for an enemy that's seen. If it sees multiple enemies, you get multiple stacks at the same time. So a strategy I used to use, and it depends, you know, but if you really want those stacks fast, you can put one of your wards in a forward bush, like in the lane. And then a lot of times the 2 laners will be there walking up, and it can trigger on them, and you get 2 stacks early. So, you know, you could walk to lane immediately and put this thing in the forward bush, like right during the countdown if you want to, and then it would trigger and give you like 2 stacks early on. Now, I stopped doing that. It is greedy. You do get like a bonus, you know, 5 AP, 3 to 5 AP early off of that. I think it might have been a little bit more than that, but you do give up your vision early to do that. So, but either way, I think it's good. Even if you don't like do anything really gimmicky with it, extra vision, really good AP rune, you know, 30 ability power is worth like 600 gold. Just, once again, the best way to think of it is Gathering Storm that you stack up faster that also gives you free vision. That's a win. And a lot of times it's not really competing with anything that important in that tree. So, anyways, I think it's pretty good. Turn update, 250 extra golds. They're really wanting to help out the split pushers here. That's the second tower that you go through. All those are worth an extra 250 gold. So, I think that's cool. You know, it's risky to get up there and take those tier 2s a lot of times. People just let minions take them half the time, and so I think having a little bit of a reward for people actually getting there is nice. 250 is a pretty good chunk. 250 extra on top of what it already was. Smite. Now, at first I was like, what the hell when I looked at this, but this does not affect monsters, okay? So this is basically just a nerf to your ability to smite enemy pets. So like Maiden, Ivern is the first one that I thought of, because Ivern I think is like low-key should be good in this meta, right? If you have these bruisers and tanks with lifesteal, and then now you're also getting this extra buff to Moonstone, which he really likes. Like, he's not really that big on Shirelias. It's okay, but I think he would really, really like Moonstone a lot more, because he wants these extended long fights where he can use his sort of stickiness, right? All these slows and roots and shields. Like, he wants these longer fights. So I don't remember what his win rate is right now, but I feel like this could definitely be a good thing for him. Wait, what? Oh, typed it on here. It's like 51%, but this is very nice. Because that's one of the most annoying things is smart junglers, you know, once you get into like Platinum Plus a lot of times, not that you can't have smart junglers below then, but that's when I start seeing it a lot of times is they'll just smite Daisy. And if you lose Daisy, it's a really, really big hit to your effectiveness as Ivern. And so you can still smite them, but it's a lot less. 10% of the target's max health. Well, I guess Daisy's going to have like, what, 3,000 health, so it's not a huge nerf, but it's a little bit. So that's nice. That's good for Ivern. Yorick is another one. It's really big. Maiden's like a huge part of his kit. Tibbers like okay, but less so. Like Tibbers is good, but Ivern's the big one because I think a lot of these changes will be very good for Ivern, particularly the Moonstone. So he's definitely getting some love here. And then I think that's it for this patch. So kind of a longer patch, a lot of stuff going on. I thought there was another champion or something they were working on. They did Mundo last patch, which I think has largely been a flop. I mean, maybe not, but what is Mundo's win rate? I'm really surprised they didn't buff him this patch because he's at 40% in the jungle. What the fuck? So bad. Like they need to buff him, old bakes. Every time I've seen him in games, he's been pretty terrible. But maybe they're just giving it another patch or so to feel it out. But anyways, that's gonna be it. It's just a really quick, like 1 or 2 minute recap here. Tahm Kench, pretty much a flop. I think these things aren't gonna matter as much. Lee getting a bit of a nerf. Rumble, Kench's flop. Viego, Xayah doesn't matter that much. Anathema, extremely rare usage, but maybe good in some spots. More likely to be used by solo laners, I think. Hole Breaker could be very good on split pushers, especially AD split pushers. Stride Breaker, potentially really OP. I feel like that's a huge buff, and a lot of people are going to underestimate just how strong this item is going to be now. It's kind of ridiculous, but it is what it is. Shirelia's still good, but will it be as good as it is? I mean, obviously not all the way, but will it be good enough to maintain its sort of presence at the top? We'll see. But I think it'll still be... I think it'll be better than people think it will be. Let me put it that way in a really strange way of phrasing it, but I think people are going to overestimate how much this nerf is going to impact it. I think it will still be a strong item, but people may get, you know, Moonstone in certain situations a bit more. It's not going to be an automatic take on every enchanter now. It's going to be probably 70% take. Mana Mythics, very good, especially I think for supports. I think that's nice. Your Zyras, your Brands, Rejoice. I think that's going to be very handy. 200 gold is a very big deal on a support budget. It's pretty good for mid laners too, but that'll be nice. Divine Sunder is still going to be strong. Moonstone, we'll see. I mean, I thought it was going to be really big before. Didn't really happen, but maybe it will now. Divine Sunder, probably not going to matter. Nerf on Ezreal. Everybody else still going to be really good. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But anyways, thank you very much. Stay tuned. Over the next few days, I will have some in-depth tier lists for you. Sorry I missed them on the last patch. Just had a ton going on, and by the time I got around to it, it was almost this patch again, and I was like, you know, I'll just wait a couple of days and get it down there. But I will make sure I put them out on this patch. So thank you very much. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time.